Lucas Frankie here on our second episode of the Player Insight podcast for Bethany Esports. What did you think of the intro song, Aiden?
It's catchy. I think it's a pretty catchy song.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm here with Aiden, also known as Dog2. Aiden is our starting AD carry this semester at Bethany for our varsity League of Legends team. Aiden, you've been Challenger since Challenger was Challenger, or before Challenger was Challenger. Is that true? That's what they say.
I wasn't in the first iteration of Challenger, but pretty much soon after that, if I wasn't Challenger, I was in the vicinity of playing with professional players on the ladder. Yeah, so.
Nice. Yeah, so Aiden's pretty talented. He's going to be starting for us in the bot lane. So Aiden, for this podcast, what we like to do is just talk about you, your upbringing, where you're from, family, all that stuff, getting a little depth about your league career, and then kind of what brought you to Bethany, and then what you're excited about going forward. And maybe if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about our big matchup on Saturday. So how long have you been playing League of Legends? How did that get started?
So I've been playing League for pretty much its existence. Like I've been playing for, we're on season 12, and I've been pretty much playing all 12 years. I started in season 1. I started the game actually because my dad got me into it. I was in middle school. It was just a random, I think it was like in the spring, like early spring.
What?
And I got off the bus. My dad would pick me up, and he told me there's this new game out that he tried at home before while I was at school, and he told me I had to play it and check it out. And then that game was League of Legends, and then, pretty much ever since that day, I've been hooked.
Wow. How many people can say their dad got them into League of Legends? He might be the only one.
It's a pretty rare thing. Normally, like when it comes to like gaming, parents are like, stop gaming,
Right.
That's bad. Like you focus on school. But my parents, especially my dad being a huge gamer himself, he kind of like embraced it and like pushed me into that direction. So it's pretty cool, like playing and then like, being able to talk to your parents about things and like they actually understand and like give advice, and it's a pretty cool environment to grow up in. Oh,
that is really cool. So your dad and mom are big gamers, or just dad?
No, my mom's not a big gamer, but she's like, she's just interested.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So you got a good relationship with your parents, and
yeah.
No, that's cool. So what got your dad into League? Do you know? I mean, was he like a WoW player or something before, or like what? I don't even know the timeline, how that lines up.
Yeah. So my dad, essentially, is him as a person, is he's always been, two main attributes is he's been competitive. He's done sports his whole life. And then he was also a massive nerd. So like he loved board games. He likes, anything like mythical, like he loves dragons, like he loves all like, superhero movies, comics, all that stuff. And so just that like combination of competitiveness and nerdiness kind of led him towards the path of playing video games. And, yeah, he's just been playing computer games for a long time. It started first with EverQuest, which is an MMO, kind of before World of Warcraft came out, and then World of Warcraft, and then eventually it just turned into League, yeah.
So, yeah, younger listeners might not know, but back in the day when I was in high school, and even before then, you had your jocks as one clique, your nerds in another clique, choir singers in another clique. It's pretty rare to have people cross those borders. I mean, even when I was in high school, 15 years ago. So your dad was kind of like a man before his time, kind of.
Yeah, a little bit, honestly.
So you say he was an athlete. Did he play any high level sports or?
Yeah, he played football in college, and he also played. He wrestled in college. You wouldn't say played wrestling, but
he played wrestling.
Yeah, he played football, and he had pretty good success with it. He was at a private college like Bethany, and they're Division III, I believe, and they ended up winning a national championship while he was there.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you know what position he played?
He was an offensive lineman.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's a big guy.
Dang.
Yeah, and he was All-American in the, football and wrestling, and after that he tried out for like NFL teams and got onto like practice squads, but he never really committed to it. He just got a job elsewhere.
So when you were growing up, did you want to be like a D3 or D1 football player, wrestler, or were you more towards like, I want to be like a pro gamer or something else?
I mean, growing up, I was also super into sports. That was something my parents, I wouldn't say forced, but like, it was pretty much forced. Is like, they said if you're going to be playing on the computer, you have to be doing a sport simultaneously. So they like kind of established that balance, so I wasn't always playing on the computer all the time. But I didn't really get into football playing it.
Mm-hmm.
I tried it once and I just got tackled and I was like so confused and afraid. I was like, what is this sport? Get me out of it. But that was when I was young.
Okay.
I eventually wrestled in high school. And he coached for the wrestling team. That was cool, but I was more into soccer growing up, and then I eventually transitioned soccer to long distance running. Like I did cross country and track, and yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So were you, I mean, for me, I have been the same size I am now since I was like in 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
If your dad was a college offensive All-American lineman on a national championship team, were you a bigger guy when you were younger, or? No?
My mom's pretty small, so I probably got more of my mom's genes. I got a decent amount of height from my dad, but in terms of actual build, I wouldn't say I like compare to what my dad was when I was his age.
Okay.
Or when he was my age, yeah.
So of all your like Doa calls the joke is they're meat sports. There's electronic sports and then there's meat sports.
Yeah.
So what's like your biggest meat sport accomplishment, you would say, or what are you most proud of?
I mean, I don't know. It's tough to say. I wasn't like super talented at sports. Like I wasn't like, oh my God, this kid is crazy at sports.
Okay.
I think a lot of my accomplishments I was more proud of actually came like more so in my middle school years when I played soccer. I was on like a pretty decent team. It was like considered premier. So you had to like do all these tryouts to make it. And we would go to tournaments outside of the state. So just like that experience in general, I was probably more proud of than like I was on the varsity, like, track wrestling high school, but I wasn't like, going to state, like, winning, all these meets, all these matches. I was kind of like middle of the pack when it came to those sports.
Just like a solid high school starter,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not anything to like really boast about.
So you're from Detroit, is that right? Detroit, Michigan?
Yeah, I was born right outside of Detroit. I pretty much grew up in Metro Detroit. I've always been, where I lived has always been, between 15 to 30 minutes in the city area.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like you said born in Detroit or around that area, grew up there, lived there your whole life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Still live there today.
In Michigan. Yeah.
Always in Michigan, high school. You're a sophomore, I guess, this year. Is that right, at Bethany?
Yeah, I believe so. With how I transferred the credits lining up, I'm pretty sure I'm a sophomore.
Yeah, but you're a little old for a sophomore.
I am. Yeah.
You don't have to say your age if you don't want to.
No, I'm fine with saying my age.
So,
I don't care.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
23.
Yeah.
So 23 at sophomore. Normally students are 19. So there's about a 4-year gap there. What were you doing during that time between high school and coming to Bethany? I mean, did you have a successful high school career, would you say? Good grades, sports? It sounds like it.
Yeah. No, I had a great time in high school, good grades and everything. And I got accepted to the colleges I wanted to go to. But I ended up deciding to go to community college right out of high school. And I did one semester. But I was also like heavily invested in the league. I was playing a lot compared to the past because I no longer had sports. So I had a lot more time to dedicate to the game. And this was in 2016, which is season 6, which if, you check my profile on OPGG, that's the first season I ended Challenger. And I remember I skipped like the last week of class before it was like
nice
where the Challenger cutoff was happening. So I skipped class. I really dedicated it. And I ended up ending Challenger, and I was like proud of that. And, but I was like struggling balancing school and grinding so much for esports. And I had a conversation with my parents, and they knew this was my dream growing up because they're so supportive. And they pretty much just said, just go for it. Like nice. if you're like, feeling too stressed doing both, just pick one,
wow.
And so that's pretty much what I did. And that's where that 4-year gap came in I just dedicated myself to league after that.
Nice. So growing up then, you didn't want to be a wrestler like dad. You wanted to be a pro LOL player. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no. Ever since, I started playing season 1, and I remember growing up watching the season 1 World Championship, and that was, my inspiration. I pretty much told myself, like, this is the career path I want to go down. You know? And I mean, whether, today after I'm done competing at Bethany, if I don't go pro, my plan is to kind of pursue the esports field.
Mm-hmm. So your dad is either like the greatest, most supportive parents ever, or a maniacal genius who predicted the rise of esports way back 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, it could be either. You could spin it either way.
Yeah. Huh. What would you think? Is he just a nice guy, or is he smart enough to know, like, hey, my son is going to do legal. I'm going to get my son into gaming because in 20 years, this is going to be the thing.
I think it's a combination of both. Mm-hmm. I think pretty early on with League specifically, it kind of had a rapid rise. Around once you got to like the season 3 World Championship, and it was located at the Staples Center, or like everyone started to realize, like, okay, this is probably going to become a big thing.
It was a huge change, right? Season 1, the joke is it was held in Freak's basement, right? And then by season 3, that season 1 Fnatic team, I used to hang out in Spain with Cyanide, actually. Oh, wow. So yeah, kind of cool there. So you started getting into it around season 5?
I've been playing since season 1. I mean, in terms of when I actually got good at the game, so I spent like the first 2.5 years being pretty bad. I was bronze, the lowest rank possible. I wasn't taking it super seriously. Mm-hmm. And then one of the main driving factors that wanted me to get good is I had a cousin that played, and he was higher rated than me, like just barely. Like when I was bronze, he was silver, and then he would promote to gold, and I would fall to silver. And it was kind of like, I don't know. He probably didn't view it as a competition, but I wanted to reach his rank, and he just kept getting better and better. And then he eventually got platinum, and so I got platinum. I was like, wow, this is season 3.
Yeah, back when platinum meant something, back then. You're pretty good. Platinum. Yeah.
And I just, I was like, I mean, I'm plat. I might as well just keep going. And I grinded, and I hit diamond, and then preseason came, and then that preseason I hit diamond 1, which is, back in the day, Challenger had a lot less slots. Right. So being diamond 1 nowadays kind of being Challenger, essentially.
Yeah, back then there was no master tier, right? Yeah. Do you know what season master tier came in?
Came in season 4.
Season 4. And so before then, you would be like diamond 1, and you would get LP clamped. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember this.
No, I do.
You would get LP clamped. You'd get like 3 LP per win, and you would lose 10 per loss. So you'd have to win 4 out of 5 just to get. So many players were stuck. Diamond 1, 90 LP. Diamond 1, 99 LP. And I think Challenger only had 200 slots back then.
It was actually only 50.
Oh, 50. Okay, yeah.
Season 3 was 50 slots. Right. So being Diamond 1, you're pretty much in like the top 500 range. Like I would guess around there.
And the Master Tier got introduced, and I think it was only for the top 500 players or something. Nowadays, it's just whoever gets past Diamond 1, and Grandmaster is kind of that cutoff, right? Yep. That top 1,000, I think it is. Mm-hmm. And because there's 300 Challenger slots, 700 Grandmaster slots. Is that how it works? And then the rest is just Master. I think that's how it works.
I think there's 500 GM slots.
500 GM slots. Okay, and they rule like that. So I remember I was looking at a graph.
Is it? You might be right. Honestly, I don't know the numbers anymore.
Okay, you just get to 1 KLP. I'm not
going to say anything anymore.
Go AFK.
I don't actually know
okay.
The exact
so I was looking at a graph, and it was something like Masters last season. Masters last season was the same like player, like as far as like from number 1, like rank down, as like Diamond 2 was the season before. Mm-hmm. So like being Diamond 2 last season was the equivalent of being like Diamond 4 in season 10. And anyways, I don't know, I just think it's interesting how the LP inflation's been going. So
yeah, the slow rise of.
But that's no problem for you. You've been a 1K LP Challenger player for a while now.
Yeah. So hit Diamond 1 season 3, mm-hmm. Season 4 and 5, I kind of plateaued a little bit, stayed around the diamond range, but I was still like high diamond, so I was still playing with like I would often get like professionals in my games. But I think season 6, well, yeah, season 6 was kind of my breakout season. That was the one I first ended Challenger in. But originally played Jungle. I played a lot of Rek'Sai. And I hit Challenger early season. And then I stopped playing a little bit and dropped out. And I was kind of hard stuck as Jungle. And I just said to myself, like, this isn't working out. I got to drastically change something. And that's when I role swapped to AD carry. And then I climbed back to Challenger as an AD carry.
Wow.
In the same season.
Yeah, that's super impressive. One thing we talked about in the last episode with Hollywood was how he went from Challenger League of Legends to rank 7 NA Hearthstone to Challenger League of Legends mid again, and then role swapping to support. One of the themes amongst like top elite gamers like Aiden is that, you know, I'm guessing you're very like top 1,000 in other games that you play too.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it depends.
It's always the same. Yeah. Okay.
People, when I talk to them and tell them I'm really good at a game, oftentimes they will assume like he's really good at every game, and that's not the case. There are some genres where I excel, and some genres where I can be as bad as anyone else. You know, typically when it comes to shooters, I'm more on the worst side. So, you know, Call of Duty, you know, Valorant, Counter-Strike, I'm very mediocre. I'm okay at battle royales. I put more time into those, like Fortnite and you know, like PUBG. But the game outside of League that I would say I'm like my second best game is probably World of Warcraft.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
Me playing World of Warcraft actually dates before me even playing League.
Oh, wow.
By a lot of time. I started playing World of Warcraft when I was 6.
And so, is that from your dad again then?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much anything my dad played is what I played. I just followed in his footsteps.
So you're pretty, are you ranked at all at WoW or have any accomplishments there?
Yeah, so I took WoW very casually for a long time and wasn't like necessarily trying to like push anything competitive up until roughly like a year ago. And that's where WoW has kind of two aspects to it. WoW has PvE and PvP, essentially meaning PvE is where you're playing with a team, but you're playing versus AI, essentially. And it's kind of like speed racing almost.
Okay.
And then PvP is actual like combat versus other players. And I am a much bigger fan of the PvE aspect. And so it's essentially you go like one of the types of things you do is called Mythic Plus, and that type of content is, you know, you go into a dungeon with you and 4 others, so you're a 5-man group, and you have to clear this dungeon full of like, you know, hard challenges, mobs and stuff, and you're timed. And depending on how fast you do it, on like how high of a difficulty, you get like a ladder ranking, you know? And so for the class I played, there's a bunch of different classes you can play, similar to like different roles in League. I was the 5th best in my class.
Oh, wow. What class was that?
I played Death Knight.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you still play WoW?
Yes. I used to play it a lot more. After coming to Bethany, I had to like, you know, set it aside. Okay. Because it's a time consuming game.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's something I enjoy. When content patches come out up for it, I typically grind it for a little bit, but yeah.
That's one of the reasons I joke I got into higher education is because of all the breaks you get, spring break, summer break. So it gives you a little time for those RPGs, those games we like to play. So we got to go back to that gap between how you did community college, you Challenger. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yep.
And then did you try to play competitively, or what was after that? What was around back in season 6 in NA? Because at this point, I was in Europe. I have no idea what the scene was like.
Okay, so essentially, I drop out of college. I go full-time on League, and...
Well, let me stop you there. What does full-time League look like for Aiden in the supportive household?
Oh, man. At first, it was extremely unhealthy. It was literally just sitting at home, grinding all day. Like, just literally... between 14, 16 hours a day, just straight solo queue. I wasn't on a team at the time. I was just grinding, playing ranked. at this time I was able to like consistently like hit top 100 challenger, float around within, the upper echelon of challenger. And my first big team I played for didn't have like an organization name. It was called Team Autofilled. And
Okay.
it was a team for this tournament called, what was it called? It was, Challenger Series Open Qualifier. So back in the day, before Academy, there's Challenger Series,
Right.
which was essentially the league below the Pro League. And there was an Open Qualifier tournament to get a slot into this league, which was a big deal because it was like an ownership slot. So, like, if you won, you could sell your ownership slot for, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars to, like, these pro organizations, you know. So this tournament was, like, a pretty big deal. All the high elo players were playing in it, and all the teams were like relatively stacked at the time.
Yeah.
My team was actually, I'm gonna list off the players. You're gonna be like, oh, okay, these
Some
teams were
OGs,
actually
yeah.
some OGs. So, okay, the coach is probably what I'll start out with. His name was Maple Street.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
our coach was Maple Street. He was a former professional AD carry in LCS. And he was originally going to be the ADC, and then, like, he just randomly asked me to play. I don't know why.
Huh.
For some reason, maybe he thought I was better at the time. I don't know what happened. He just randomly wanted me to play AD, and he coached.
Okay. This is great.
Yeah. The top laner was Dokla. Yeah, someone that also eventually became pro. This was before any of these people were ever
Dokla
pro.
got signed to Team Liquid Academy, I think,
Yeah.
last summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So keep in mind this is 2016. So this is before anyone really ever knew any of these guys. Our jungler was Chaos Rain 77, who is not really a well-known player. He's kind of like, resides on the league Twitter and memes now, but he was decent back in the day. He was probably our weakest player, but our mid laner was a Blaze Olive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he is now pro for Golden Guardians.
Yep, LCS. And he got all pro votes. He didn't make all pro, I don't think, but he was getting all pro votes last split.
Yeah, no, he was, I'd say, definitely the best player on the team. You could tell he was like, pretty special. This was when he was first kind of getting recognized for how good he was. Because shortly after that, he did get signed to an academy team, and he stayed in academy for a while.
Okay.
Then I was AD carry, and then our support was Executioner Ken,
Okay.
who is also a former professional player.
Yeah.
He had already actually played pro, so he was already pro, recognized, really good. And yeah, that was our team. And I forgot. We made it pretty far in the tournament. I think we made it to like the semifinals, and we lost to Mandatory Cloud's team. It was close. It was best of threes.
Yeah.
And it was 1-1. And going into the last game, we got 5-man aced on an invade, and then the game was pretty much over. So it was a sad ending.
Level 1 tragedy.
Yeah, level 1 tragedy. That was pretty much it. The team, we didn't really play anything else. It was kind of disband. We never like scrimmed. We pretty much just came together and showed up to this tournament. But this was like the first big team I was kind of a part of. And then I didn't play really anything competitive for a while, actually. I kind of stuck to solo queue because the amateur scene wasn't really well developed back in like 2017, 2018. It wasn't really like the only path to pro was either you're really sick at solo queue or you got signed to one of these challenger teams.
Yeah, you knew somebody, right? Like back then.
It was more so who you knew.
A lot of gatekeeping.
Yeah. I need a sip of water there.
No worries.
What happened after that? Oh yeah, the next big team that I joined was called F3VP, and then this is where I first met one of the players on Bethany.
That's Hunter, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So me and Hunter on the team, we played back on an amateur team together called F3VP. It was all challenger players, but we weren't. I don't know. We were good, but like we couldn't ever like string things together in competitive games, and so eventually the team like fizzled out. I think Hunter might have gone back to school. I don't know. He had other obligations, so he had to leave the team, and we couldn't find a good jungle replacement, so the team eventually fizzled out. And then I joined probably the best team I played for in like the modern league era was it was a Mirage team. It was called Mirage Oasis. So they had like Mirage, their main roster, and then they had the B roster, but honestly the B roster was probably better.
It's funny how that happens sometimes. Even in LCS, like last split, you had FlyQuest Academy take over and win more games. And so, yeah.
Yeah, so this team was it was pretty good, and we went. I forgot what the tournament was called. It was just like it was like called like the Scouting Ground Circuit, something along those lines. It wasn't called Proving Grounds yet. But it was essentially, you played as a 5-man team. You went to this tournament, and if you placed top 2, you went to Scouting Grounds in California, and you could like get scouted by all the pro teams. I forgot how far we made it in the tournament. We did pretty decent. This team had like so many controversies. Someone else, that was I think coached for Bethany. Did Deos coach here?
Yeah, he's off and on. Deos has been helping us out since last fall even, I think. Yeah. He's just a really good guy. Got a great reputation, and I think he's on Dignitas now. So.
Yeah, that was their coach. Quick rundown. Our top laner was Eclipse. I think he's playing Academy now.
Which Eclipse? There's 2.
He's the top lane Eclipse.
Okay, the top laner.
Yeah. Our jungler was Rhubarbs. He was the former U of M jungler. Our mid laner was Robbie Bob. He's pretty prevalent in the amateur scene.
Yeah, Robbie Bob plays for St. Thomas in Texas now.
Yep, St. Thomas. It was me, and then our support was Sandpaper X. And this team was good, but also extremely dysfunctional. There was so much drama within this. Like, it was hard to get through every week, like, surviving with this team. Everyone was just like, we didn't have good, like, conversations about anything. Like, people were kind of, like, we would VOD review, and we would end it with people, like, at each other's throats, kind of, like, like, the conversations could get heated. People could get upset. We've had constant issues with like people just muting in the middle of the game, refusing to talk to anyone because they got upset.
That's so awesome.
Our top laner, like Eclipse, we like locked him in the wrong champion because he was AFK and he just refused to play one of these tournament games. Like, there were so many, that's awesome. There were so many fiascos, but this team was unironically good. Like, we were actually able to take down. I believe we did. We took off like matches versus like the teams that would eventually go on to win the whole tournament. But we were really dysfunctional, and what kind of hurt us in the end was we lost Eclipse at the last second, before the tournament started. He left for another team without really telling us.
Yeah.
So it kind of threw us off, but we got a decent replacement. We got Tony Top as our replacement.
Oh, not bad. Yeah.
But we hadn't practiced with him, and Tony he didn't talk a lot at the time. So it was tough, but it was cool. Like, when we would play like our matches, like we would get scouted by TL. Like, I would have to like turn on my stream, and like, like Steve Liquid 112 is like in the Twitch chat. Of,
That's so cool.
Of like this burner account.
Yeah.
And that was a good time. But again, nothing really came of it. The only person that got scouted from that team by Team Liquid during that was the support, Sandpaper X. They flew him out to LA. And this just goes back to how dysfunctional this team was. They didn't sign him because they told him pretty much straight up he was too socially awkward. Like, they couldn't have a player like that on the team.
That's all interesting.
They kind of like, apparently the way he told it to me was they kind of like tested him. They would ask like, hey, do you want to go hang out with the team? Hey, do you want to go do these social events? And he would always respond with, no, I got to grind solo queue. I got to get better at League. And so like, they just didn't like that mentality.
Oh, okay. Huh.
It's weird.
That is weird. It's interesting though.
Yeah. So
what was that team called again?
It was called Mirage Oasis.
Oh yeah, Mirage Oasis.
Yeah, so it was under the Mirage organization. So wasn't their main roster, but I'd say at the time we were better.
Okay. And then after Mirage Oasis, sounds like we got to do a whole thing on just the team, like with all the dysfunction going on. It's got to be funny now, but in the moment, it's probably pretty rough.
Even the team with Hunter had a lot of bad moments, because that team was pretty much like, at the time, like 5 one-tricks thrown within each other, so our drafts were absurd.
Did you just call Hunter a new one-trick? Is that?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I like also calling myself a misfortune one trick. Yeah.
Well, Hunter
So,
can be, he's known to speak his mind. That's for sure. He's a great guy,
yeah.
but he's pretty stern about being on time, not wasting time in scrims.
Yeah.
He's been known, I don't know how he was back then, but he has been known to just, anytime we have a 3 block and it's just the other team is goofing around or whatever, he'll be the one to end it. I'm assuming back in the day, he might have been, when he's a little younger, he might have been a little more, toxic. Maybe not, though.
No, Hunter's always kind of been nice. He's always, like, been the league player that I could tell wasn't a league player his whole life. Like, you could tell Hunter was, like, in real life, like a normal dude.
Yeah.
Which is, like, if you play League for a really long time, you meet a lot of weird people.
Yeah.
And so
Bradley.
He was one of the cool guys I was able to meet on League. So yeah, I'm thankful for joining that team and then now being able to come to Bethany for that. So
yeah,
even though the team was a train wreck, it led to something.
It led to something good because you met Hunter, you did the Mirage Oasis, and then you decided it's time to go back to school. Is that kind of what made you go back to school? Or there's another team?
There was one more team. It was Team Fish Taco. This team was like kind of memed on within the amateur team, just because the amateur scene, just because the downfall was not graceful with this team. We had a really good roster. Mm-hmm. We had Surdy, Rosethorn, Strumpist, me, and then Yama. All these players, considered pretty solid. Mm-hmm. Some went on to play academy, and
Strumpist is like 1,300 LP last season or something.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
They're
all really good. Yeah,
all really good players. But everything fell apart when we lost our support Yama. I'd say at the time he was our best player, and we lost him to Team Liquid. They picked him up, and we couldn't find a support replacement, and then it kind of just crumbled, like slowly players fell, and amateur at the time had this weird like no roster swapping rule for like this one season, and I tried jumping ship. I tried rejoining Mirage, like their main roster, but they're like, yeah, you're not allowed to swap teams, right?
Unlucky.
So,
huh. Yeah. Let's just say that's unlucky. Yeah.
That's pretty much my whole amateur experience was honestly kind of unlucky. I just never really landed on teams that were like, I had good players and I felt like I had good systems, but like, whether it was like drama or these weird roster issues, like things were never really able to be pulled together. And I kind of got fed up with amateur.
Yeah.
It's a vicious system because you put a lot into it and like, there's not a lot of that you get out of it unless if you go pro. So
yeah, I know. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
No, I was just gonna say, it just, it just feels bad not getting anything out of it. So.
Yeah, that's one of the things Hunter, I was gonna say, always talks about is, these guys put 10, 12-hour days, 6 days a week or more, sometimes 7, right, for amateur teams, and then they get nothing out of it. Literally nothing. Maybe nowadays, if you're lucky, you'll get $300, $400, $500 a month. But I mean, when you factor in that you're putting in 80-hour weeks, that's just like. It's a really tough lifestyle to sustain, especially, with League of Legends where it is. A lot of the top players have been around for a while, and it's hard to, when you're in high school, it's one thing, but as you get older, it's kind of tough to sustain, justify that lifestyle as you grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you decided to go back to school, or what was the big moment for you? Just got sick of it?
Well, for a little bit, I kind of got sick of the game entirely. Like, I took a big break from League. I stopped playing League. This was the longest hiatus I ever took. It was last year, actually. I took 9 months off. And
wow.
A really long time of not playing. I just, I was kind of burnt from playing so many matches with these amateur teams and not really seeing success. I wasn't getting picked up from solo queue, even though I was consistently high rated for years. And it wasn't even like I was like that close, right? Like I had some connections, but I never got an academy tryout. I never really got like in the talks of like, hey, maybe we would want you to join. And so I don't know what crept in. Maybe it was like doubt, or maybe I was just super demotivated. And I also, after you play the game for so long, like you eventually just get a little burnt out. So I just stopped playing. I just literally, I put down the game. I I pretty much didn't log in for 9 months. It was kind of cut it cold turkey. It wasn't like a gradual fall off. I grinded to hit Challenger at the end of the season. Season ended. I quit. I vanished for a little bit. I was like the last airbender.
That was the end. You're the last airbender.
When they needed me the most, I just vanished. And during this time, actually, this is where I got good at World of Warcraft. I played a bunch of WoW. I got good at it. And I had fun. If I had more time or if I had played WoW earlier, that would also be a fun game I would have enjoyed going professional in.
Pursuing.
But I mean, WoW, it has its own other deal of issues, but
hopefully fixed by Microsoft buying them out, right? They just bought Blizzard or Activision yesterday, I think. So
yeah, I mean, who knows with Blizzard and World of Warcraft? I can't ever trust that company anymore. So.
It's too bad. It's interesting. You take the hiatus. One of the interesting parts with Bethany is, we have Ryan Wizardish, right? Mm-hmm. Who has hit Challenger every league season, except last season he didn't really play. Mm-hmm. I think he Challenger last season. But then once he hits Challenger, he's just like, okay, I did it, and goes AFK and doesn't play the rest of the year. And then his account will end like Plat 1, 75 LP, but he'll be top 100 MMR, And it's interesting to try to find players like that who, just let the game go. I know you've ended Challenger most seasons, so you do care about that end of the season rank part of thing, Do you ever get bored with League? Do you ever think like, okay, I've kind of learned, like what else is there for you to learn? Let's be honest, you've been hitting 1,000 LP, like 1K LP was like the mark of, okay, this guy could be pro, right? Mm-hmm. This guy deserves looks. And you've been 1K LP for a while. Yeah. This last season, 1K LP was kind of like, with the inflation. But I mean, you were 1K when 1K was 1K, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, do you ever feel like you have nothing left to learn, or you're just kind of like, I've talked to a lot of players, in fact, who've said that, like, I don't know how to improve. I hit top 50 Challenger and like, I don't know what else to do.
I've definitely had periods where I've plateaued, but I don't know if I've ever had the mentality of like, I have nothing else to learn. Like I think I'm good, but I know I'm not the best.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players better than me, especially when you get to like the high level pros, like people winning and competing in the world championship. There's still like a barrier I have to break through if I want to reach that, echelon of player. So I never really felt like I was like, oh, I have nothing to improve on, but it's more so when you play the game for so long, it's so easy to get complacent, I guess, and you're not even really noticing it. Like you just keep playing, and then you're like, wait, I've been the same rank for the past 5 years. Where did all this time go? So I think I'm better about it now. If I could go back and change something about, when I dropped out of school, I wish I had the ability to like, because I was like, I don't know, I was more cocky back in the day. Obviously, when people are younger and more cocky. And my mindset was like, I'm just going to be so sick at solo queue that a team will eventually have to pick me up, And I just grinded. I just played as much as I could without like trying to like, work on the fundamentals, without trying to like VOD review with other people, without trying to like, take like the strategy or like these improvement things like super seriously. I was just like, I feel like I'm a sick player. I'm just going to keep playing. Eventually I'll get picked up. And that's, that's just a bad mentality to have in general.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever had like the idea where it's like I have nothing left to learn. But yeah, I used to be way more cocky, and I think that held me back in the day.
Huh.
Yeah.
So did it just over time just go away, the cockiness, or?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm 23. There's a big jump from when you're like, 17 to 23. Like you actually do mature a decent amount, I feel like, in general from, those ages, even though it's not like the big picture things, it's not like a massive amount of time. But, when you get into your 20s, like it's a big difference from just like being in high school. So.
Yeah, you can notice that, I think, at the program a little bit, right? Where you have some of the guys who just think it's so much fun to like sleep at their own house and not have their mom and dad tell them what to do all the time. Yeah. They get like really excited about it. And you just remember like, oh, when I was in high school or, my late teens, that was cool too back then, but seemed to have matured past that. So you decided to go back to school after quitting League for a while. And And how do you end up at Bethany? What's the reason that Detroit guy ends up in Mankato?
So at this point, like I said, I've been trying to go pro for a while, and I just had a mentality shift. I just decided I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna get my degree, and I'm gonna, try and get something in esports, but not as a player. Because I'm still interested in that field, but I want a degree, and I want to, get hired by a team or like do something, right? So I went back to community college. I dropped out after one semester back in the day, so I went back to the same community college, and I did 3 more semesters there. And I was just doing like general education, and my plan was, I was good at league, and I spent so long getting nothing out of it. Right, I played on these amateur teams, got zero money. I might as well get something out of it. I might as well like play collegiate League of Legends and like, use my skill and like get something in return,
Yeah.
So that's where I started to just like kind of look out. Like this semester I wasn't actually expecting to transfer, but I was like just on the lookout, like if teams needed players and it was a team I was interested in, I was going to reach out. And that's just what happened with Bethany was, you made that Twitter post saying you needed players. I knew Hunter was on the team, so Hunter was someone I would be interested in playing with. So I just reached out to Bethany, and you guys got back to me, and I mean, now I'm here. It's pretty much that simple.
Yeah, and I love when you tell the story because that's literally how it works. I mean, there's no in esports, there's no epic moment. Nick Saban doesn't knock on your mom's door in the middle of the day. It is like, I need to talk to your son about a D1 football scholarship. It's just kind of like, you go on Discord, Twitter, hit people up, and then like, boom, you're at Bethany. Is it going well so far?
Yeah, no, I'm liking Bethany. I like, because I never moved away for school.
Yeah.
So I was always just commuting to community college. So even though I have grown up, this is like one of the first times I've lived away from home. So just I'm enjoying, the college lifestyle, like just living in the dorms. For a while, it felt like, maybe one of the things I regretted was like, seeing all my friends, like they all went through college. All my friends from high school are pretty much graduated at this point, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I always felt like, I missed out, I missed out on like the college experience and like how valuable that can be. And like being able to like get a second chance at that.
Yeah.
And like a pretty cool environment where I'm like playing esports and doing school. It's like, I'm pretty thankful for that opportunity. Yeah.
And it's been great. You fit in really well. I know you're an exercise science major. You want to be what do you want to do with that? Is that just an interest you have because of your athletic background in wrestling or?
So my thought process behind this, it might not be super conventional, and I don't even have I couldn't even pin down I want this job in specific. I'm mainly coming at from the angle of I already have a pretty in-depth esports background. I couldn't think of many degrees where it's I could get a business degree or something, but that's not really what I'm interested in when it comes to esports. I'm not interested in the business side of things. I want to be more so directly working with the players and having an impact actually on the performance of how the games go. And I felt like having exercise science to kind of just build my repertoire, because I know what it's like being an esports athlete, but having the background of the fitness side of things, I think as esports grows and everything, I think it's going to be an important thing to have. You're going to want to have your professional players that you're giving millions of dollars to.
Right.
You're going to want to make sure they're healthy. You want to make sure that they have the energy to play the game. You want to make sure that they're they're eating the right foods, they're getting the right exercise. You don't just want to give this random 17-year-old $1 million, say, hey, just have fun and play League of Legends.
Right.
You
knock yourself out. Yeah.
It's becoming more like a real sport where everything's kind of monitored, and I kind of want to try and see if I can slot into that process for one of these teams is my main goal.
Well, that'd be amazing. I can tell you that, this is just my third year in NA esports wise. And from our first year to now, even in Mankato, our, town of 60, 100,000 people or something, the area, the physical therapy in town has changed a little bit to adapt to people who spend a lot of time on computers. Just in the last few years, I mean, we have a few professors here too who talk about that stuff, and I think it's fascinating. I think you're way ahead of the curve, wanting to do that, because like another thing unique to gamers, especially League of Legends players, is if you're not high elo, they kind of don't want to hear it. Would you say that's kind of true for the most part?
Yeah, no, it's for sure. And I even, it's hard not to have that mentality.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure even like if you ask like professional football players, like if someone that's never touched a football in their life is trying to tell them how to play football, they would probably get a little irritated. They probably wouldn't take it as seriously what they're trying to tell them. So having like, that background of like, hey, I was actually just as good as you.
Right.
Like, it kind of gives you more weight.
Well, a lot more weight. I think so too. Yeah, it's one of the big things in collegiate right now is there's not a lot of people who have played at the highest level like you, who've gone to school, graduated, and then now can be supported by the ecosystem as a full-time coach or director or whatever in esports. And it causes a problem of you have, I'm not in an arrogant way at all, but you have people who are not challenger, not supersonic legend, not, even high diamond coaching players who are at that level. And it just kind of creates a lot of frustrations for the players. And you see things change. I mean, I know you're not familiar with collegiate, but in collegiate, you've seen a lot of coaches who, are gold or platinum. They're no longer around. And I think you're going to see that more and more, as more and more high elo players come in, and it's same in the professional leagues. I remember TSM hired a guy who was gold to be one of their like motivational coaches, and he lasted like 2 weeks, right? Yeah. I don't know if you remember that. And so I don't know, I think it's a great career choice.
Yeah. No, I'm excited, and it's kind of always what I've wanted to do. I kind of early on decided, esports is kind of the ecosystem I want to see myself in growing up.
Yeah, so I'll start with your dad, right? Predicting it, and here you are, manifesting the dream at Bethany. Yep. So is it colder here than in Michigan?
Yes, I would say Minnesota is pretty much just Michigan except colder. That's,
it's just the same thing. Okay.
Very similar. It's just a little bit more colder and more snow too. You actually I'd say you get a decent amount more snow. Nice. Yeah.
I think so.
Just worse weather, pretty much.
So I gotta ask you before we go, I just gotta ask you, how do you feel about the team so far? What do you think? How do you think we're gonna perform going in? I know Doxa, former mid laner for Winthrop, just got announced as an 80 carry at St. Louis University, which is a new up and coming varsity program. They got first or second place last fall at a HuFest, which is a big tournament. How do you feel about the squad? I mean, I know you've been watching a little bit of the Tier 3 or what is it called? Proving Ground circuit. Yeah, Proving Ground. How do you think we stack up? How do you feel? What are your goals for the season?
So I mean, so far I'm happy with the roster and the coach. I think everyone, just like attitudes wise, is like it's going to be an environment where I feel like we're going to see a lot of growth. Everyone's really willing to learn. No one really has an ego, which can be a thing within
big
league
time
players. Is it's hard to get through to them. But yeah, everyone's super open to learning. Everyone's super open to admitting their mistakes and trying to think of the next best thing to do for the team. And so I think our growth would be very rapid. I think right now, if we were to go up against the best of the best, I think we could hold ourselves, but I don't think we would be there. I think we do have work to do. Ryan is freshly role swapped to support. Tushka, he came from top to mid, even though he played a lot of mid.
Yep.
And we just new players on the team. A lot of the collegiate teams, like Maryville, a lot of those guys have played with each other for years. So, we have some gelling to do. But practices. It's been good. I think one of the things I'm excited about is working with the coach Trevor. I think Trevor has a lot of good insight into the game, and him having more of a player background. How he said his words carry a lot of weight because he's really good. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's really good. So it's fun. It's fun working with him. I think our drafting the entire year is going to be, something that we have an advantage on, just because I think, Trevor is going to have like a really good grasp of the meta because he's playing improving rounds himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be right, in the big tournaments where all like the meta drafts are happening. So he'll give us his wisdom with what he's doing with his team. And yeah, I mean, as for where I want to be at the end of the season, like goal wise, like I think, Bethany obviously had that good run getting third place at last nationals. I think we could do just as better, if not, just as good, if not better. I like ideally, like as we mesh, as we mold, and like start taking games off these big teams, I could easily seeing us, taking it all the way. And I mean, that's my goal.
I love it.
Yeah.
Go to LA, hopefully. Haven't made the decision yet. They, Riot announced it was going to be only online, and then they pulled back. We're still waiting on if nationals will be in LA. We would have flown to LA last spring. It's all everyone wants to do is send Hunter off in graduation, of his college career with a trip to Los Angeles. Which, if you've been to Los Angeles, it's not really Los Angeles you want to go to. It's just more of playing in the LCS studio than anything. So. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Aiden, and shout out to Bob.
Shout out to Bob.
That's
and my dad.
Yeah, and Aiden's mom, who I haven't met yet, but I'm sure is just as awesome as Bob, if not more awesome. Yeah. And we'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah. See you Saturday.